they lose a superstar, but Russ is. It's gonna be fun and it's gonna be interesting. I think the season's gonna be interesting, and so overall, I think the Lakers, from a talent perspective, have definitely bolstered their roster. From a fit perspective, the jury is definitely out.
You were gonna say something real haterific. I saw, I saw you stop yourself.
Let me put you on game.
Our first news and notes of the day: an absolutely huge trade on draft night. We have Russell Westbrook going to the Lakers for Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, KCP, and the 22nd pick. So what are your initial reactions to the trade, and how do you think Russell Westbrook will fit with the Lakers?
I find this trade to be hilarious because Kyle Kuzma has been in trade rumors for like the last year.
He really has, yeah.
And people have just been like, making fun of the Lakers, saying like, oh, you can't just pick, like nobody wants Kyle Kuzma in the first round pick, like,
Yeah.
and like everybody's like, yeah, like Lakers are trying to give Kyle Kuzma in the first round into the whole league for some help. And they finally have been able to, I guess, push it into something. And now they get Russell Westbrook. I think this is probably a good trade for the Wizards. They lose a superstar, but Russ is. It's gonna be fun and it's gonna be interesting. I think the season's gonna be interesting, and so overall, I think the Lakers, from a talent perspective, have definitely bolstered their roster. From a fit perspective, the jury is definitely out.
You were gonna say something real haterific. I saw, I saw you stop yourself.
I know you like. I know you're a fan of Russ, and I love Russ too. But he doesn't always fit, and he makes teams fit to him as opposed to the other way around, which I think can be awkward at times.
No, I feel what you're saying on one hand, but like I think that if you look at, we've had this discussion before, obviously this is like our third Russell Westbrook discussion recently, but I think that he's actually made every superstar that he's played with as good as they are or better. Like I think you saw Paul George have an MVP season with Russ. KD obviously had some of his best seasons with Russ. And he does, if he is playing with a superstar, you'll see his shot attempts and his usage rate actually go down significantly because he is kind of trying to acquiesce to playing with someone else. And people do describe him as a great teammate. So I I agree. I don't think it's the best fit in terms of the personnel that the Lakers have. There's a distinct lack of shooting on the roster now, especially with giving up KCP. It may force AD to play the five, which is something that he's talked a long time about not wanting to do. And you're going to probably have to play LeBron at the four a lot more to get some spacing in at the 2 and 3 spot. You're going to need some really good shooters because those three guys are not the best. Like LeBron is the best shooter of the three, but the other two are not like the greatest. And LeBron's actually been a good 3-point shooter for like the last couple of years of his career. So,
Yeah.
It remains to be seen. I think we both realize, I definitely realize, I know I'm always putting on my Russ cape, but I realize that he's a flawed player. I'm not unaware of his deficiencies. My thing was always just that I feel like his deficiencies are highlighted way more than his actual. I think he's a net positive, but I think that people spend too much time talking about his deficiencies and not enough time talking about like what he brings to the table as a player. I'm not going to name the podcast, but I was listening to a podcast that was covering the trade, and they spent about 15 to 20 minutes talking about the trade and what it meant for the Lakers. And I just wanted to, out of curiosity, just kind of keep track of where the conversation was going. And for the entire 15 to 20 minutes that they talked about Russ and they talked about the Lakers, they did not say one good thing about Russell Westbrook. Like not one. Nothing about like him in transition or him as a rebounding point guard. Like none of that stuff. It was all about like what he couldn't do. So I think that the notion that the Lakers are somehow worse for making this trade, for acquiring an all-star and giving up essentially nothing, because Montrezl Harrell had a really bad year last year. Kyle Kuzma, his Lakers fans have been trying to trade him, like you said, for at least a year and a half, and the 22nd pick. So it's like, yeah, you're taking on Russ, and he may not be the best fit theoretically, but I like the notion that the Lakers are worse is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that KCP was a solid two-way player, but his shot making was MIA last, I would say last season and last postseason, and so was Montrezl Harrell. You know, his production off the bench, like you said, he had a bad year. Kuzma has been frustrating for the longest, and so the Lakers get a little faster on transition. And I think LeBron can play a little bit more off ball. Maybe he'll be a better shot maker. And it'll be interesting because he hasn't played with a dynamic guard since Kyrie. And I think that LeBron in a dynamic guard, especially if he's going to play off the ball and give a lot of ball handling opportunity to Russ, I think that as a spot up, he can prolong his career. And so there is some potential upside, along with a healthy Anthony Davis coming back with a vengeance, and being a drop coverage, rim protector. I think they have potential. It just like if they can get two solid knockdown shooters to round out the rest of that starting lineup, or at least off the bench in some rotation fashion, they can be a force in the West.
Yeah. My notion is just that they were already a force in the West. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like this is the first year that LeBron and Anthony Davis are playing together. So I think that they should be better. Like, the only way that they're not a force in the West is if they're worse, because if you look at this past season as like an aberration, then they've been a force in the West since LeBron and AD got together. So, I would like to think that, they're going to be a better team going forward.